And every Namibian citizen needs to introspect and take some of the blame for the corruption that we have allowed to fester under the leadership of the SWAPO party. Were it not for those who truly have our interest at heart, rising up to challenge the rot that has been unfolding, I wonder just where we would have ended up. Walvis Bay Councillor Knowledge Ipinge took to social media and asked the questions. This time it appears that millions have disappeared from the municipality. I asked him to expound on what transpired there.
It's a revelation that I came across actually based on the Massive Urban Land Servicing Project. Just to give you actually a background of the Massive Urban Land Servicing Project, this was actually the project that came alive after the agreement between the affirmative repositioning as well as the government, the high-level meeting that happened actually between the movement and the president, which was held at State House. This was a few years back in 2015. So what has happened then, you remember the issue of the 200,000 plots that were supposed to be delivered. Some of the intervention from the affirmative repositioning appeared also in the Harambe Prosperity Plan, of which I can then indicate the pre-allocation of land, which till today we haven't seen it coming alive. In addition to that, also there was then the housing revolving funds and all other pillars which were actually added to the Harambe Prosperity Plan from the AR Housing Charter. Now, with the Massive Urban Land Servicing Program, we had 3 pilot towns, which was Walvis Bay, Oshakati, as well as Vendu, were the pilot towns, of which then land was identified in Walvis Bay, which was serviced land already at the time. And through the Ministry of Urban and Rural, the government then took ownership of this land and then assigned the municipality to identify contractors to build houses for the residents of Walvis Bay, and at the same time also look at their application list to see who can then be the beneficiaries of these houses. It is very important to state that at the time, AR had also presented a list of people on the mass land application that we held on the 27th of February 2015. So with this, some of the people were actually also identified from this list of people, of which we applaud the municipality for. But then this is where the story becomes interesting. We then identified that there is outstanding money on some of these people's houses, as claimed by the housing department of the municipality. Now, we went to dig deeper into this matter to see what is really happening. So now I received a house in 2017, but then it comes across at the municipal records that I owe the municipality 100,000. So that is where we started to dig to see how is it that this individual then owe 100,000 to municipality. So with that, we saw that this has been happening actually to a number of people, of which the exact number I don't have, but then it accumulates actually to the value of about 24 million Namibian dollars that is unaccounted for and that is missing. And this is not according to knowledge. This is according to the finance department of the municipality. The finance department cannot account for this money. So it's not a knowledge issue. You should understand. Knowledge is just a mouthpiece when it comes to this 24 million. The CEO, who was on record yesterday, speaking about the money being in a suspense account, he is fully aware that he received an email on the 24th of August from his finance department raising a query regarding this money. This was actually after we started discussing this. You should take note then, I've written to the CEO 2 letters since the 7th of August, of which I've been trying to get meetings with him. He has received an inquiry from the finance department actually, raising a query over 44 million. You should take note of this. 44 million was the amount that was stated by their finance department that is unaccounted for and missing. Now, from that 44 million, 24 million of it is actually money from homeowners who have registered plots since 2017 already. So they have received their houses. The houses are fully registered under their names, meaning this money is supposed to be in the account of the municipality. It cannot be elsewhere. It's supposed to be in the account of the municipality. So now you should take note. This is the finance department asking that question. So if the money was in a suspense account, then definitely the finance department should be aware of it. It's very, very key for you to take note of this. So for the CEO to then claim that the money is in the suspense account, how does he know that and his finance department doesn't know that? That is the most interesting question that one needs to ask here. At the same time, again, we then go back to what has transpired in terms of the homeowners. When someone buys a house, and that house is costing you 500,000, for example, the bank pays over that 500,000 in one installment to whoever you're buying the house from. The bank doesn't make partial payments. So for it to say that from the 500,000, only 300,000 is reflecting in the account of municipality and the 200,000 is missing, I'm flabbergasted. It's very, very flabbergasting, really, to how this amount gets divided if the bank pays a full amount of the house value. So somewhere, somehow, someone should be able to answer this question to say, how is this then that 500,000 was paid over, but then there's a 200 missing here, then there's a 70,000 missing there, then there's $1,000 missing there, then there's a 5,000 missing there. So for me, if it was then a one set amount, it would have been consistent to say, yes, this amount is maybe the amount of the contractors that they used to build the house, for example. Because we are aware that municipality has paid 230 million Namibian dollars to the contractors. How they paid this money was the fact that you then get the contract to build the house, you then finish building your house, and once you're done building that house, the municipality then pay you your money based on the contract that you have with them to actually build the house. So you're out of this story. So municipality then recover their money from the person they sell their house to. So it would have been another story if that was the amounts that were missing. But we have picked up that is not even the amounts that are missing, because I went as far as engaging a few contractors to see what is the real value of money that they were actually, or that they got from the municipality. We have then identified this value of money doesn't account to the money that is currently owed on these respective airbags. So this is the questions that we are asking for. We have then heard now, I just read something that the mayor said that they're going to hold a meeting. I don't know why you should be holding meetings if you say the money is in a suspense account. Then just give us the records and say, here is the money. That's all we need. Because what we're asking for is, where is the money? Be transparent, be accountable to the residents of Walvis Bay and tell them where the money is. If someone knows where it is, let it come out. Give us the document proof and then we move on.
Namibians have also been incensed by another report. Velvita Private Hospital in Walvis Bay built a 42-bed isolation facility for COVID-19 sufferers for 1.9 million Namibian dollars, whilst government's 24-bed facility in a tent has cost 12 million. I asked Walvis Bay Councillor Knowledge Ipinge to share his views on this.
When we speak about these matters, because I've seen a lot of information that is circulating, it is just fair that one actually also provide context in this. Context in a sense to say, we have written to the Ministry of Health already back in April, of which we had plans to build a hospital facility of 150 beds. So with that project, we had earmarked about 10 million to be spent towards the 150-bed facility. As you are aware, we have an oxygen plant which was actually sponsored by Rossing Uranium, which cost about 4.5 million. So with that plant has been standing at the hospital and has been used throughout the time, even before any facility was there. In addition to that, we have spent 300,000 Namibian dollars just to lay the ground. Remember, we had the groundbreaking ceremony at some point. So with that, the private sector has paid over 300,000 to just lay the ground, just preparing the ground in order for one to start building there. And then the project along the way was stopped. So with the stopping of the project, we then had a position whereby there was a field hospital put there by the Ministry of Defense. And then it is also the same area that this new hospital was built on. So now we hear that the ministry has spent about 12 million on that hospital. And when one has to just use your common sense in that regard, how you end up spending 12 million for 24-bed facility, vice versa, a 150-bed facility that was only going to cost 10 million, then I think one really need to look deeper into it. But then for me, it's something I've avoided because over the past, I think for 6 to 8 weeks, most probably now, I haven't even paid attention to COVID-19 anymore because I've seen people have started to politicize the matter and also taking advantage of the residents in the situation. So I withdrew myself from it and I decided to sit back and watch and see how far this matter goes. Because as you know, I've been calling for the minister to come to Walvis Bay and just acquaint themselves with the ground, of which the deputy ministers definitely came, and I've submitted what I needed to submit. I've made myself clear on what I was supposed to make myself clear. At the same time, also there were suggestions from the security cluster, which was more about decongestion and how to mitigate actually the pandemic itself. On top of that, we have seen that the cases in Walvis Bay are down. As it's assumed, it's down. The reality is we are just testing less. We should be very honest with ourselves when we're dealing with this matter and also transparent to our community. The difference in Walvis Bay is the fact that we are testing less. We are no more testing at the level we were testing a month back, 2 months back. That's why our results are currently low. It might be that the virus is still amongst us and actually spreading on a daily basis. So we should be factual when communicating this information to the public. But then I should applaud the residents of Walvis Bay for being responsible enough and definitely still adhering to the protocol in place. Whether it is now to wear their mask, social distancing, as well as just hygiene matters, washing your hands on a regular basis and so on. So our community members have taken full ownership and responsibility as they've grown into the experience of the virus itself.
Walvis Bay was under lockdown for about 5 months. I spoke to Walvis Bay Councillor Knowledge Ipinge, who was at the forefront of the battle, and asked him whether he thinks lockdown was the right solution for the battle against COVID-19.
Definitely, I would say yes. Lockdown was worth it. As much as it has affected a lot of households and families negatively, I would say it was worth it because we have learned a lot from COVID-19, and that's the positivity about it. Learned a lot in a sense to say strategic planning, combating problems by focusing on solutions and not just dragging on problems forever. That's one of the positive things we've learned here. At the same time, also, we've learned the importance of participatory democracy. Participatory democracy in a sense to say, reaching out to the grassroots people in order to find solutions. Because gone are the days that us as leaders sit in office and we want to impose things on the residents. It's a matter of me making a decision and just imposing without finding out from you to say, as a journalist, at what level do you think you need intervention from my office? What is the solution that you require for me to make life better for you to be able to work at the maximum speed? That is very, very key because I don't know journalism. I'm not qualified in the field. So it is important for me to reach out to you, for you to give me the guidance, and then only I come up with solutions which I can then implement.
Knowledge Ipinge ran as an independent candidate to become the councillor of Walvis Bay. I asked him what advice he has for the various newly formed parties planning to contest the upcoming regional council and local authority elections.
Namibia have reached a level whereby actually we have to look beyond party politics. Beyond party politics, in a sense, to say we look at the needs of our communities. Definitely with local authority, it is a good start. And to me, how I see the approach towards local authority, for example, in Walfish Bay, it's for oppositions to get to one table to map out the way forward and then identify amongst themselves the strong candidates and the strong representatives who they then want to see taking over local authority. Because it is clear the regime has failed us. That is why we are sitting with missing 24 millions today. So with that, the opposition should be able to sit around to say, are we combating corruption within an institution like the municipality? What then do we do? We need to sit down and then agree and say, the first step that needs to be taken is for a forensic audit to be implemented. Before we touch anything within the municipality, that should be the first step. So whoever then gets appointed to sit on the local authority after the November elections should then advocate for this forensic audit to be implemented immediately. That is my view and my vision, how I want to see moving forward towards November. It should not be a knowledge issue. It should not be a PDM issue. It should not be an LPM issue. It should not be an IPC issue. It should be a collective as oppositions for us to come and say, what is it that we are fighting for? Otherwise, we'll end up failing our residents and our constituents who then wants to see the change. You cannot talk of change if we as oppositions cannot unite to work towards this common goal.
The Erongo region has thus far felt the brunt of the lockdown restrictions the most, and recently had an easing of sorts. I had a chat about the impact of the easing of the lockdown on Walfish Bay and the Erongo region at large with Councillor Knowledge Ipinge, and asked him how life in Walfish Bay in particular is now that some of the restrictions have been lifted.
It has been actually a slow transition, definitely. Slow transition in the sense to say that with the economic hardship, it has not been easy actually for the business people to find their feet again. And at the same time also with the retrenched residents and all, it is difficult actually for them to get new jobs because currently also the businesses are struggling. So it has a direct impact also with finding employment at this stage. On the positive side, one should say that the community is united and they're standing together and they are actually having more conversation. And that is very important at this stage. Conversation is happening and people are looking at how do we then kickstart the economy, of which also from our side, I've started actually speaking to a few economists on actually looking at the socio-economic analysis for the constituency, as well as for Walfish Bay at large, of which we will then move into the next phase of which we're looking actually at the economic transformation policy to be developed for Walfish Bay.
A fire that ravaged parts of Twaloloka, where people live in shacks, brought the community to its knees as government's inadequacies were illustrated once more. Namibians, however, rallied in numbers to assist the affected communities, and I asked Walfish Bay Councillor Knowledge Ipinge to update us on the situation on the ground.
I should say there has been so much. One of the key organizations that has been instrumental in that actually it's Roundtable 36. They've been instrumental actually in mobilizing both resources as well as just providing aid, whether it is food aid, clothing, and they've been working with the whole community way beyond Twaloloka itself. On top of that, also they have gone as far as actually mobilizing to also get the dignity of the fire victims restored, in a sense to say, getting a roof over their heads. So with that, they have mobilized funds. They have also mobilized some private companies who have come on board, willing to help these residents. But then now the conversation is between Roundtable as well as the municipality of Walfish Bay, of which we know definitely the Walfish Bay municipality have plans of building what is called alternative structures with alternative building materials, which is actually something very tricky in a sense to say what is alternative building materials and is this actually in compliance with the standard building regulations? Because now, are you going to put people again in shacks? Is that what you're telling us? And if you talk about restoring the dignity of people, how do you then put someone in a structure that doesn't have a toilet? How do you then put me and my wife in a structure whereby we are sharing the same room with our kids, whether it's the same room where I'm cooking, it's the same room where we're sleeping? How is that then restoring the dignity of the people? So this is one of the key conversations whereby we haven't been getting answers also from the municipality, which we have learned that the Ministry of Urban and Rural is also instrumental in this because they are the ones facilitating the funding of this initiative. Then the question comes, why not build a 2-bedroom house for each resident then with a toilet? If you are really true about restoring the dignity of the people. So this is what we need to happen, and this is the conversation that we want to see happening between the municipality, the different organizations within the community, as well as the residents of Tualoloka itself, and then the residents of Walvis Bay at large. Because you should remember, the moment that you cater for the people of Tualoloka, what happens then to the person who has applied for land in Walvis Bay in 1995, in 1999, until today they don't have a house? What do you then do to them? That's why for me it is very important for you to have this conversation, because now you'll end up dividing the community to say the people of Tualoloka and then those people who have applied for land in 1995 and so on, and who have been on the waiting list for such a long time. So somewhere, somehow you need to find common ground between these individuals, and for them to know these are the fire victims. They are getting first option because it's about restoring the dignity of the fire victims. And then you need to present then the other group with a solution to say, this is how we plan to cater for you over this time frame. There is a plan to maybe take from this group 100 people and then accommodating them as well. So these are ongoing conversations that needs to be happening, and us as leaders should be on the forefront of this.
The affirmative repositioning movement is also testing the electoral waters in the local authority and regional council elections for the first time. And for once, people of Namibia, get up and go and register to vote or stop complaining about the current condition of this country. Job Amupanda, who has set his sights on the mayorship of Windhoek, made this public service announcement. Check this out.
The saying goes, there is a saying that says that if you want to go faster, go alone, but if you want to go a long way, go with others. Indeed, over the past 5 years of the existence of the affirmative repositioning movement, we decided not to go alone in order to go faster, but we decided to go with others. So we have reached a stage where we spend a lot of years mobilizing young people to stand up and to fight for their country in various manifestations. AR is really the rhythm and spirit of, the desire to move our people from point A to point B, where point B is a better place. So we really spend a lot of time agitating and mobilizing, and most people did not understand why this is important. Last year we declared the year 2019 as a year of an activist, where we really wanted young people to stand up by themselves. And this year we have decided that it's a year of national revolutionary action. So that basically means that the seeds that we've been planting should then manifest. So the year 2020 is a year where really we are participating in a very important election. And that is the election for local and regional authority elections. And those elections are quite important because it is not an MP that destroy a house of somebody. It is not a minister that can give a plot to somebody. These are councillors. That is why to us these are quite very important. And before we even talk about elections, there's one thing which is really the reason of this video, is for you to understand how the system has been designed to disadvantage not only the youth, but really a lot of poor and marginalized people. Now, this is an example of a card that people use to vote. Now, this card, as you can see, it has a a region, and it also has a constituency. Yeah, and it's written here local authority. Now, take a look at your card. Most of the cards are written not applicable. It's written not applicable. So if you think you have a voter's card, but it's still not, so this is supposed to be, this is the Windhoek West, the constituency is supposed to be written Windhoek. That is when you can vote for the councillor. So when we stand for mayor of Windhoek or whatever it is, if your card is not written, a particular local authority, you will not be able to vote. That is why we are going to launch a serious voters education. So everybody, please take a look at your card and see whether it's written your town. There must be your Shakati, or Ndangwa, Vavesbai, Swakop Moon. I would think almost every young person that you find, their cards, they have the card, yes, it's written a constituency, but the ECN and everybody else, they don't explain these things. So they argue and say, yeah, you must have a water bill, you must have a title deed or something like that. So those are the things that we are going to be challenging. So we are going to launch a serious voters education, and that also include taking, if necessary, taking the ECN to court. So we've already written a letter to the ECN to raise some of those issues that we want to have for electoral reform. For example, why is it that you declare a day of voting a public holiday, but you don't declare a public holiday on voters registration? So these things, if we are not aware of, election is a process from the beginning to an end. So when you are just entertained at the end, you are already excluded at the level of registration. So we be on the lookout, but for now, we really just want all of you to look at your card and see what is written there under local authority. Majority of you will not be able to vote. You will only be voting for councillors, regional councillor, but not local authority, and which is really what is most important for us to be able to give land and housing to our people. So be on the lookout, be alert.
And with that, it's a wrap. Stay woke with It's a Wrap by following us on our social media pages. It's a Wrap Nam on Insta, It's a Wrap Namibia on YouTube, and It's a Wrap with Erica Gebhardt on Facebook. It's a Wrap premieres on Sunday night at 7:30 on One Africa TV, where it just gets better.